supernatural thrills, a journey that plunges them into, if we may paraphrase, the torments of hell itself. Okay. James will discuss the habits that helped him write a 600 plus page novel, okay, in 4 months. How to use artificial intelligence to gain an edge, however, never to use it to actually write your book. Okay, and because James also provides publishing services to other writers, he has some tips for us on publishing. The title of his presentation is Lessons from the Grind, Perseverance and Hacks for Aspiring Writers. So if you would please welcome James Auld.
What? 600,000 word novel in 4 months. Is that on this planet or on this planet?
Who said 600,000 words?
Did I get
600
that wrong?
pages.
Yeah. 600. 600.
This is maybe 85,000 words, I think. What's the count?
How many?
85 or so? No?
Yeah,
I would estimate mine.
Thank you.
Turn the mic up. Turn it up.
It's up as far as it's going to go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. These are the books that I've written. Final Remains and Infernal Remains. And talk a little bit about that as we go through this. I guess first I'll talk about a little bit about me. So let's see, I grew up in the 70s. Do any of you, have you ever used an 8-track tape player? A few of us, huh? Yeah. My father invented that. So I had a very interesting upbringing, surrounded by interesting people and business and so forth. You guys know about the Learjet? Yeah, probably. So basically, growing up, Bill Lear was with my family all the time. My dad was the president of his company. So it was very interesting and unique upbringing. And I grew up in Newport Beach, California. I like that. That's good. And you know, at some point I got very interested in horror novels. I started reading Stephen King and Dean Koontz, maybe when I was about 15, I think. And at the same time, a woman across the street from me in my neighborhood kind of took an interest in me. And she was eccentric and into the arts and so forth. And so she had me writing stories at that point. And that's just kind of how it all started for me. Being a writer has always been my number one, you know, goal in life, as you know, growing up since that time. So, fast forward, I guess, I ended up being a software engineer for 30 years. And I know, Bernard, you said you're a software engineer, so yep, that's wonderful. Lots of bugs, yeah. That's what we don't want, right? Isn't that what we're always trying not to do? Yeah. But basically, through that time, you know, a lot of work on computers, a lot of course, a lot of work in graphic arts and websites and so forth throughout all those years. So I think that has, it kind of led me to a point that when I did become a writer, you know, I was primed to be able to publish, you know, self-publish my own books and really have picked up a lot of skills on that over the years. So I'll be talking about some of those things for you guys. And I'm not sure how advanced any of you are. I hope I don't, you know, talk about things that are far below you, you know, and so forth. But, you know, as Larry was saying, if everyone gets one thing there that they didn't know about, right, that's a good thing. If they get two, it's even better, right? Yeah, that's a good goal to have. So with that, let me go ahead and I'll just run through this document.
Thank you for this, by the way. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, Cheryl said that you guys appreciate that, and I was happy to do that. Good. You could take notes on it, scribble on it. So when I wrote my books, at the time, as you know, I'm a Stephen King fan. You know, I always loved the way that he narrates his books. They're interesting books to me. He's got such a great style, I think, of his narration. And so I went ahead and I read I started out by writing his On Writing, a memoir of the craft. Have any of you guys read that book? Yeah, it's still my favorite, you know, when it comes to these things, just the way he lays it all out. I think that, you know, when I was looking at the sections of the book, I think that these three that I've put here, what writing is, where he talks about the, you know, his philosophy, how writing is like telepathy, that fascinated me. I love that concept that 100 years from now, if someone's reading my book, they're inside my brain. I am there in their brain, you know, that kind of thing. It's a neat kind of a principle that I like. In his toolbox section, he gives so much information about grammar, vocabulary, style, lots of good pointers that, you know, I'll take with me throughout my entire career as a writer. Very encouraging. And then on writing, the third section that really interested me, that's when he laid out a lot of the things that helped me to get my books written. And it was astonishing how it worked. It sounded so simple, his principles, but they worked. So now, you know, when I was done with it, and I thought, wow, I just wrote an entire pretty long novel in that short of a time, in just a few months. Actually, probably about 3 months of actual writing, and then more time, you know, putting it, you know, doing editing, rewriting, and that sort of thing. So, you know, as simple as his ideas are, if you want to call it that, they worked, you know, for me. So then I did it again in book 2, same thing. So I'll go through some of these ideas here, and the first one here is, you know, find a private space. You know, he talks about setting up a working environment without, you know, distractions, without people there, without a phone that's on. Nowadays, it's even more important than probably when he first wrote the book, because we have our smartphones, everything's happening all the time. Even he went as far as to say, don't have a window in there. And that's hard to do. Most of us don't have, you know, that capability, or maybe don't even want to. I don't think the window one is very, very important, but it could be distracting to some people. So the next idea is just to write, and write some more, which is what I call it. You schedule enough time each day to write a minimum of 1,000 words. And he goes on to say that if, you know, you're serious about what you're doing, you're actually writing a book and so forth, he suggests 2,000 words. Nowadays, there are all kind of books about how to write 10,000 words a day and all this sort of thing. But to me, 2,000 words was just right. And I could still finish my book in a very, you know, reasonable amount of time with 2,000 words a day. So I'm hooked on that concept. When you're writing that way, it's not going to be elegant. It's not going to be grammatically correct all the time. And you'll fix that during rewrite. Basically, you sit down and it streams from your brain. You guys probably already know this, many of you, that process of it streaming out of your brain. And the more you do that, where you just sit down and write 2,000 words a day, the more good work just streams straight out of your brain. I did the thing where he suggested not to plot very much. So I tried that concept when I was writing my novels. And to me, that actually worked. He talked about the novel writing itself, kind of the story, unearthing the story that already was there. And my brain actually, I guess, works well that way because I didn't have to plot, and yet I came up with, you know, just naturally twist after twist after twist. And I seem to have a good sense for, here's a bunch of just white knuckle action, and then right after that, here's a short break where the characters are relaxing and talking about things and talking about, you know, important things in life and everything. So a balance between action and sort of quiet times to counterbalance that. Yes. Either way. Well, I would sit down and I had about a 4 to 5 hour block every day. He says to write 7 days a week. I wrote 5 days a week. So, you know, and I could easily get out 2,000 words in 5 hours a day. And that was, again, without slowing down too much to plot or rewrite or make it perfect. That was really just sitting there, getting into my state of mind and just letting it go, you know, letting it flow.
But
Yes.
remember, everybody is different.
True.
2,000 words for him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for me it's 750 words. But the key, and I'll tell you, is being consistent. Because I've been consistent writing hundreds of pages for the last 5 years, and what you said is right, man. Right is the way to get better at writing.
Mm-hmm. What's that?
Unless you're a wordsmith.
Yes.
People don't do,
Yeah.
sort of generate lots and lots of text.
Yes, yeah, and there's so many different styles that authors have. So you have to definitely, you know, at the point that I read that and I ventured into it, I didn't know what my style was yet. So that was my benefit. I just started to do that, and it just was like, wow, you know, it just worked for me. So what I did was I made a small space in my attic in my 100-year-old family vacation home. Not too many people have that ability to do such a things, but I had that opportunity at that time. So I would go up there. I actually had to climb a ladder to get up to my desk every morning. Right? Yeah. And yeah, it gave me exercise. Yeah, up and down the ladder for, you know, if I needed some more coffee, I'd have to go. Yeah. So that was good. And it was creepy up there, but you know, I made it mine. I had, you know, I made a night's desk and everything. I had what I needed, but yeah, it could be creepy, especially at, you know, 4 a.m, 5 a.m. when it was dark outside. Still, I'm up in the attic. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good place to write horror novel. You know, I felt. Yep. I mean, and this one was like an A-frame roof, and so you know, it was up about this high above my head and just sloping down like this. So I was sitting at my desk with one here, one behind me. That was my place, but it worked for me. So again, I wrote 5 days a week, 5 a.m. to around 10 a.m., 2,000 words. I would just be checking. I wrote it in Scrivener, and I would just periodically check my word count. And I got to where I didn't really have to check too much because I got a feel for how much was 2,000 words. And I also got a feel for if I was writing slower than usual, faster than usual. And so, you know, the word check isn't Scrivener. I love Scrivener. Some people hate Scrivener. It is a software package. It's been around for, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years. It's available on PC and Mac, and I'm going to talk a little more in detail about it as we go down here, but it is to me, it makes sense the way you write in your book into it, and you keep the formatting as a completely separate component, which I'll talk about, you know. And it's just a great way to put your book in there, have it in there, be able to format it later, export it to your documents that you need that are formatted the way you need them. And it's organized.
If you do that,
Mhm.
I'm at the end of my manuscript. I put my manuscript in that now. Is that, raise your hand if you subscribe to that or use that? Anybody else?
Anything like that?
I would like to hear him talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because I'm a programmer, you know, in my career, it was easier for me to learn how to format the books, learn how, you know, because sometimes Scrivener can be complex when you get to the stage of formatting. When you're just, you know, typing in your book, this is something that I suggest is if you keep it simple at that point and just enter it scene after scene after scene, chapter, scene after scene, you know, just enter the book into Scrivener. That's not a problem. It's when it's time to start to format it to get it out as your ebook and your print books. It can be very complicated. So I'll talk more about that too. Let's see here. So I'm going to take a little moment to talk about AI. Does anyone use AI today? ChatGPT. Great. There's more hands than I expected. That's great.
Would you consider Grammarly AI, right?
No, it's different. I mean, Grammarly is excellent though. You know, I use Grammarly, so.
Grammarly, Premium.
Mm-hmm.
Changed my life.
Very cool.
What did you say before that?
AI.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
what is AI then? What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, well, that's
So I'm a recent convert to AI. You know, I probably started using it 6-8 months ago, and you know, as a software engineer, I know what it is. You know, on sort of the intellectual or technical level, but I first started with GPT about 8 months ago, and it just blew me away. I had no idea how advanced it had gotten. And what it is, they call it a language model. And they teach the computer, their big, huge, you know, servers that they have. They teach using algorithms how to speak. That's a huge part of AI. And then how to reason, how to put ideas together, how to and how to communicate it to people. So I think that, you know, a lot of people are nervous about AI and what it's going to do. The way I look at it is AI is here. It's a huge help. It's a time saver. It improves certain things that you're doing. And I'm just going to take advantage of it. If I don't, then I'm putting myself behind the curve. You know, I want to be on the leading edge of the curve. So I jumped in and used it. And if I don't answer somebody's question, let me know. My brain sometimes skips ahead and so forth. But as I say here, it's great at deep dives into complex subjects. I had this amazing back and forth conversation with the AI, with ChatGPT, about genres, because, you know, I'd always called my books suspense thrillers, and then I wanted to make sure that was correct, because I hadn't been able to find too much information about that, Googling it and so forth. So I asked ChatGPT what it knows about the different genres, and I told it my book's names. It remembers that. I can go back in, and I'll demonstrate this for you today. I can go back and say, you know, we talked about my 2 books, my 2 novels, and it says, and it'll come up, and it's obvious it remembers it. It's got memory. They finally made AI have more memory lately. And it basically, I could tease out from it, by having this really human-like conversation, exactly what suspense thriller is versus what I now believe that it is more of what dark urban epic fantasy. And in just an hour or so, I just had this deep dive into that, and it amazed me. So
I don't think we can teach everybody what AI is here in
Mhm.
this forum.
Mhm.
I do want to give everybody a little tip though, because it took me a while to figure this out. I tried to have this dialogue about my book with AI,
Mhm.
and it kept telling me I don't know what's in your book.
Oh, did it?
So
Yeah.
What you need to make sure you do is upload your book. Just get your book text, put it in there. I don't care if it's 100,000 words. Just paste it in there. It'll remember your book, and then you can have a dialogue about the book.
See, I've never done that yet.
Yeah, because
I've never actually pasted my manuscript into it.
Exactly.
You've done that, or?
I started by saying, this is who the book
Mhm.
is for.
Yeah.
How will they react to it?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing said, I don't know. I don't
Know
know
what
what
you're.
it is.
Yeah.
And I can't have access to it because it's proprietary information.
Oh, okay.
So just a little tip. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna try that.
I'm sorry, I'm just curious about the copyright infringements related to the AI. I think
No.
that's
It
more-
knows it's mine, and I told it this is my copyright.
Okay,
And
but once you upload it, is what I mean.
Well, you
Well-
can't control what technology is going to do.
Okay.
I I've been in technology for 51 years. You're always going to get screwed. It's a miserable industry. You're not going to be able to retain your privacy. If people want it, they're going to get it. But I just prefaced it by saying this is my proprietary copy. You can't share with this.
Yeah. Microsoft has a new AI. They use Copilot to get to it and so forth. They actually now are licensing to enterprise companies because they guarantee to the companies that their proprietary information, which is very expensive, it's an expensive thing that they protect, is going to be private. So nowadays, that whole concept is there, and they're working with that. For me, I've even started this thing with my books where I'm letting them out without the DRM, which is the digital rights management, because for various reasons, like I'm going to give you guys, whoever wants it, my first book on ebook. There's a link in that in my handout that you'll be able to use. And my reasoning is, first of all, if people read it, that's good for me. Because a lot of people enjoy it. I get a lot of feedback. Maybe they'll review me if they think about it. There's a lot of good things. I'm not making millions of dollars on my books. I'm not a Stephen King or a Dean Koontz or any of those people. So, or a Jim Rollins. I'm not those people. So, I'm not worried about it getting out there. It's going to get out there. In fact, even right now, if you know what you're doing on Kindle, there's software you can buy very inexpensively that will, what they call, rip the DRM right out of it and make it into a regular EPUB file that you could then, use. So digital rights already aren't protected.
Just for the record, I had a chance to talk to Malcolm Gladwell about this. And I said, how are you dealing with people stealing your book? And he said, I love it when people steal my book.
Right, yeah.
If I give my book away, I would give it away to everybody, but I can't because then it has no value.
Right.
I have no concern about my book being stolen. I love it.
That's great. That's a great answer. I would agree. Yeah, very good. Okay, so moving on this, brainstorming is great with ChatGPT. Gemini is also a very good one. That's from Google. It's amazing what I've been able to have conversations with Gemini about. And again, brainstorming ideas for book names. One thing, Larry, you mentioned about it not knowing my book. However, with ChatGPT, it must have access to Amazon information. It must have, because it knew way more than I ever thought it could. I don't know where it knew, but it did.
Reviews and write-ups.
That kind of thing. Yeah, it scours out there. Yeah, so.
For covers, your cover, because I was looking on it for my cover,
Mm-hmm.
and it gave, it brought out some things I wasn't thinking of, and I thought that's cool.
That's
So I
very
could
cool.
Modify it, on my cover, because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One thing that I use it for, when we're authors, we're in the business of being an author as well, So for me, AI helps me to quickly put together blurbs or quickly put together emails if I need to send something. And when I get ready to do you were talking about, I think, a query letters and so forth. For me, I would rather actually use someone with experience to do it. First of all, I've just never known anyone who did that. So, but if I was going into it, I would, try to tell ChatGPT something about what I wanted. I want a query letter. It's smart enough to know what a query letter is, and it will actually put together something pretty good. Hmm? I know what you mean. Yeah, there is that whole kind of a philosophical idea of AI, and how it will replace something that people do, and it will replace. Yeah, and again, all I know is it's out there. It's affordable. For someone like me, I would use it again if I had opportunity to have someone who really knew about these things in a much more deep way. I would prefer that. So I'll be getting your name just to have that, you know, in my, yeah. Because, you know, that experience that you have is going to be is invaluable, and ChatGPT can't be that, you know, they can't have that experience. So, right. Yeah. Oh, is it really? Wow. Okay. So I better move through this faster. I use openart.ai for artwork. AI did this image for me after a good deal of, you know, telling it what I needed and retelling it and tweaking it. It took a good deal of time, but once it understood what I wanted, I got, you know, a number of iterations of this that I can choose from. I'll show you some of those. Do you? Mm-hmm. It did this for me as well. That graphic AI. So now I don't have to hire an artist, and I feel bad for the artists out there, but at my budget right now, this works. Okay, so publishing your book. I'm going to skip author branding. You guys know about author branding and just how important that is. Everything you do is your brand, your titles of your books, the way your books look, the covers, your tone of voice, even your headshot. Everything kind of needs to be in a synchronous, you know, consistent state, I believe. And so I do so much thinking about my brand and thinking about my book series, even about renaming my book series at this point, because I've learned so much since I first wrote it and so forth. But that's something for me. Let me talk for a moment about where you write your the software you use. The Scrivener is what I use. I'd also give a few more in here. Scrivener Atticus is a new one. I've never used it, but it's the same idea as Atticus. Vellum is a long time one out there that people use, and it's Mac only. I'm a PC guy since I was a software engineer, so I wouldn't be using that one. But Scrivener is a great one. And here's the reason why they're so good. Basically, when you write your book into Word, which I find that a great deal of writers do that. When your book is in Word, it is the text, the source, the content of your book, your words are in there, but it's mixed together with the format of your document for Word. So let's say you need a Word document for your ebook, a Word document for a 6x9 paperback, and a Word document for a 7x10 hardback, let's say. And now all of a sudden you've made 3 copies of that Word file. And so your book is in 3 places. So now if I go back and I do some corrections or additions or anything, I have to do it on 3 copies and make sure I don't make a mistake. And so it's a problem. And as a software developer, the idea of writing your code in one place and having it work on different, platforms is very important, and it's organized. And so Scrivener, you write it into the files. You have chapter breaks, you have scenes, and that part's very easy in Scrivener. But then when it comes time to format your book, have I gone too long? Let me know. Okay. Then you basically concentrate on the formats, and you put the 3 formats in, but they're not mixed up with your book's words, and you export to those different formats anytime you need to. And so it's a really nice thing. So I very much suggest you look into Scrivener, and search for different ones that might be out there as well.
So
Mhm.
that adapts to all 3, is that my surmise, is that correct?
It does. You can do a format for ebook. You can do a format for a paperback that you're doing. You can, it all is in there as separate formats with one source of text. It's wonderful. I've done recently 4 books, and I have a client who I'm doing a book for. Lisa and I do. We have a company, Pandoran Publishing Group, that now that we've done our own books and so forth, we actually that's our thing that we're concentrating on as well, is to help other people do that. But basically, as a publisher, that is a phenomenal way to do it. I'll even take someone's manuscript and I'll enter it into Scrivener and then move on from there. I've done that before. So, starting with Lisa's book, actually. I took it from her old publisher. I entered it into Scrivener, did her formats for her. Now she's got a place where she can update it anytime she wants and re-export it. I guess, I've given you all the information here that I've been going through. So anything I don't cover now, you'll be able to check out yourself. I wanted to maybe show you, or how much more time do I have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay. I wanted to show you some graphics that I've done and some Facebook ads and so forth. Facebook ads have been great for leading people to either Amazon or Ingram Spark or your own, landing page to sell your books yourself. So I did an ad, which I'll show you here. And the graphics on here, by the way, are all AI. So the graphics are AI. Yes, you need to see that. And the motorcycle was AI. I of course know how to put those together and do what's needed to do to make the final thing what needs to be done, but the pieces of it are AI generated. Yes, you have license to it. It's yours. Yep. And that's important because I used to use Shutterstock and Getty Images for just all of this stuff. And of course, that's expensive, as many of you would know. It's very expensive. Nowadays, I can actually have AI. I can give it a suggestion if I would like the face like this, and then it will then take over and start to generate those. For instance, you saw that ad. So here's some. Oh, okay, loaded them. So these are all graphics that AI did with that same face that I had, which is real important when you're doing, your marketing and so forth, because it's your characters. So if you decide that you like a certain look for your character, now you've got the ability to then take that character and put them in any situation that you want. So I love how this stuff works. That one is, yes. What you do, but it's a face of a real person that's been modified. So let's say you take the face of a real person, and then you do say 20 different iterations of that with AI, and it will change things. So it has modified that face now, and then you make that the source of your future. You decide, oh, I like this one, the look of this one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a concern. Right. For me personally, I would never use an actor's face, and I would never use even a model's face unless I heavily changed it first. And that's what I've done for these. So yes, it's definitely an issue. You have to change. Okay. All right. So, when you guys, if you look at the very end of that document, you'll see I have a link there for you guys to be able to get my first book. If you do that, if we can communicate by email, I'm happy that you guys can ask me questions. I will help with anything I possibly can. I do. At the very last page, I was worried I wouldn't have enough to talk about today. So this is great. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
On the copyright regarding using AI,
Mm-hmm.
my understanding at this time is that there's no law against it. They're trying to make laws
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, but,
Mm-hmm.
but AI is not part of the copyright.
Right. Yeah. There's nothing that is keeping you from using it at this point. If they change it in the future, I'm sure that It would be for any subsequent usage of their services. So things that you do now wouldn't be a problem. And I'm sure that they'll have higher level licenses you have to pay if you want to use it in your books and so forth. Oh yeah, to use Hollywood. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Right.
If I can just,
Hmm.
if I
Yeah.
can add to that though, but yeah, copyright on itself is a huge subject, you know, which we can talk for hours
Oh
on.
yeah.
But if you do have, my understanding also is if you create a cover that's using AI, then that's free to use by anyone else, which in my mind is okay, because if I have it on my book, I'm using it. If someone else wants to use it, it's kind of like advertising or distributing my image.
That's
So
an
which
interesting idea.
I'm not going to complain about really, because it's kind of like built-in promotion.
Yeah.
Because the image I've created has the title and my name on it. That's what I'm thinking about. So they might edit it and cut things out, but it is my image, and sooner or later people are going to know about it.
One practical thing that helps save you on this is that only you have the huge 600 dpi image that you need to put on a book cover, or you need for a magazine article, or all that they'll ever have, if they have anything, is a small web image, which is 72 dpi. It's not print quality. It's going to be more difficult for them to use it for anything substantial. So that does help a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I've been seeing lately, like on Amazon, they have a little box for you to check. It's an AI image.
Mhm.
So I've been seeing that lately.
Right. On KDP, when you're creating your book, when you're uploading your manuscripts and so forth, it keeps asking you, did you use AI for the content of your book? And the way I look at that is, no, I haven't for the content. I did not ever have it write my book. I would never do that. Actually, that would be against my principles as an author. What am I useful for if I have a... So yeah, so I always say no. Now, do I use it on my book cover? Yeah. But I don't believe that's what they're asking, is if you use it on your book cover. I think that it has to do with your content. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right, because it's when you're uploading your actual manuscript, that's when you check mark, have you used AI to generate content? And so I say, you check mark and say, no, I have not. So, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yep. No? Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So in publishing, I've come across a lot of issues that, a lot of things that will save time. Let's see, I'm just going to go through and decide where to start with that. So we've got the AI, of course. And I think I've covered a bit about, in my publishing your book #1, there's, I've covered about how you can you type in your manuscript into a better place with Scrivener and those types of applications. Book covers, I've kind of shown you the AI aspect of it. I've shown you how, as a graphic artist, I can put the different images together and mix them together and with the text and kind of make it work. And of course, a lot of these things you'll want to hire someone to do, whether it be from a site like Fiverr, where it's very inexpensive, all the way up to having some of the overpriced publishing companies do it for you. Some people, I've been amazed at how much people are paying for publishing. It's just it's too much. It's like very much too much for a lot of these. $10,000 to publish your book. It doesn't cost $10,000. That is the old school. That's an old company, I think, that did vanity publishing a long time ago. Anyway, let's see, KDP and Ingram Spark, definitely, that's where you would publish your books to those two. Ingram Spark is kind of cool because they have many more options for your book trim and covers, hardback covers, all the way to going to old school dust jackets, which I actually want to do a hardback of my books with dust jackets because, I just think that's a cool thing to be able to do, and they're special to me. Let's see. There are things about KDP and publishing where if once you've put in your title, your subtitle of your book, your author name, if you want to change those things, even the trim size, so if you want to go from a 6x9 to a 7x10 book, they make you, and this, they don't even suggest you do, this is the way you can do it. You have to unpublish your book, republish a new book, and you most likely will lose your reviews at that point. And that's the only consideration I would be worried about, is losing my reviews to do that. So they've kind of got you on that one. I'm at this point thinking of going forward, doing some changes to my branding, but it's a decision on whether it's okay to lose my reviews, But mhm.
You were talking about publisher. I was at a conference recently, and most of the publishers want you to commit to 3 books before they take you on.
Uh-huh.
It's getting a little more limited as to having a single publisher take 1 book.
Now, one thing I wanted to note was that with publishing, there's self-publishing, right, where your work goes into KDP or Ingram Spark, you own your rights and so forth. And then there's old school publishing, which is traditional publishing, which is, Simon and Schuster, their budget behind it, getting into bookstores and all that sort of thing. Now, people are being charged huge amounts of money for publishing when really the company is self-publishing them. So that's a thing to think about. What I like to think of with publishers is they are helping you to self-publish. And however much help you need, that's what you should pay for. If you already know a lot of it, you don't have to pay huge amounts. If you don't know any of it and you just want a company to do it, that's where I think people are being overcharged for that sort of thing. And I think that goes to what you're saying, is that whole 3-book thing. I think that probably just makes them feel very, important to have that be a rule, maybe like a larger publisher or something. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yes, James, how long have you been using these tools? You might have said that already, but I apologize.
Mm-hmm. For the author tools, 10 years. For graphic arts, 30 years. For 10 years. Mm-hmm. Yep. And now basically it is complex enough that when I fix things, I have a long-running area in my Microsoft OneNote notebook where I document every time I have to figure out something, exactly what the problem was, how I fixed it. It is, and you really need that when you're in a complex system. So yeah, that really helps.
Explain that just a little bit better. I didn't understand that.
Oh, sure. If I have an issue, like when I was doing Lisa's book, I ran into some issues with the way that her internal images were, and I needed to make it the same way that her original publisher made it, right? But I was working in Scrivener. So I did have to investigate that. And I'm good at investigating. I don't give up until I find a workaround. And so I did find a workaround. Finally, it took me about 2 days. What I learned from that is for me to document everything I learn as I go. Every time I have to research or troubleshoot something and figure out a workaround, I document it. And now I have this notebook in Microsoft OneNote where a lot of times if I'll think, oh, I think I've solved that issue before, and I'll go back, I'll find where I wrote it down, and I'll be able to fix it quicker.
I'm sorry. If you have more questions, maybe James can stay on. The trouble is that Bernard needs to leave, and he's taking the equipment with him, okay, when he goes. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Please come again next month.
Cheryl, can we ask one question? Those of us on Zoom, how can we get that handout? It looks fabulous. This is Kathy Kanika.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Please remember to pay your